Welcome back to another episode of Everyday English Hub. I'm Mia, your friendly guide to all things English.
And I'm Leo, ready to make this learning journey a bit more fun and less stressful. So let's get real here. Mia, why do you think people struggle with English?
Oh, where do we even begin? Spelling, grammar, pronunciation. It's like English wants to keep you on your toes.
Exactly. I mean, why on earth is night spelled with a K? What's that K even doing there? Taking a nap?
Haha. And don't get me started on idioms. It's raining cats and dogs? Can you imagine a beginner picturing that? They'd think we have pets running around in a storm.
Haha, true. English definitely has a playful side, but it's not all bad.
With that in mind, can you guess today's topic? Listeners? Today, we're diving into a question many ask: is English really that hard to learn?
I love this topic because I get asked this all the time by learners who feel like English is a mountain to climb. But today, we'll explore why English might seem tough and how to make it a bit easier.
And don't worry, we'll sprinkle in some cool tips, a few laughs, and maybe even some fun examples. Right, Leo?
Absolutely. Let's kick things off.
So, first things first. Why do some people find English difficult? I think one of the biggest reasons is the grammar rules. English has a plethora of rules, but also a ton of exceptions.
Yeah, it's like being told you're safe. And then bam, something unexpected happens. For instance, we have words like there, and there. They sound the same, but they mean completely different things.
Exactly. The rules are tricky. And then there's the pronunciation.
English is notorious for having words that are spelled one way but pronounced in a completely different way. Take though, for example.
Ah, yes. Though is a real head-scratcher. It's pronounced THO, but you'd think it would sound like THO. There's no logic to that.
English loves to play tricks on us. Another struggle is understanding word meanings, right?
Absolutely. A word can change meaning depending on its context. For example, bank could refer to a place where you keep your money or the side of a river.
Haha, so if I say, I went to the bank, you better ask me which one.
Exactly. It's all about context. Now, do you think English is actually harder than other languages? Just share your thoughts. Leo.
Great question. Actually, English is often easier than many other languages. For example, in French and German, the verb systems are much more complex. There are many more tenses and conjugations to memorize.
So you're telling me English is like a vacation compared to those? Less grammar. More fun.
Yes, for me it is. And when it comes to sentence structure, English is pretty straightforward. In French or Spanish, for example, you have to deal with gendered nouns and more complex word orders. But in English, it's mostly subject-verb-object.
It's simpler than it seems. And don't forget, English is spoken everywhere. This makes it easier to find resources to practice. Whether it's watching movies, listening to music, or finding free learning tools online, there's always something to help you improve.
That's so true. English is spoken all over the world, so you can hear it in various accents and situations. This helps you understand it better. You can find more podcasts on diverse topics on our channel or catch any movie you like with subtitles.
Now, let's dive into some specific struggles learners face. What do you think, Leo?
One major challenge is vocabulary. English has so many synonyms, right?
Yes. Like, you have big, large, huge, giant, and many others. They mean almost the same thing but are used in different situations. It can be confusing for learners.
Oh yes, I'm still trying to figure out when to use huge instead of big. And then there are homophones, which are words that sound the same but have different meanings, like flower and flower.
Plus, you've got pronunciation differences depending on the accent. For example, Americans say schedule with a SK sound, while British people say it with a SH sound.
Wow, it's like learning two languages in one, right? The accents can really throw you off.
Definitely. And let's not even get started on idioms and phrasal verbs. They can be confusing, especially if you're translating them word by word. For instance, hit the nail on the head doesn't relate to nails or heads. It means to say something exactly right.
And the classic one, break a leg. I mean, who would say that to someone without knowing the meaning? But in English, it means good luck.
Now, let's learn some new phrases related to our topic today.
You can take your own example for each phrase and share it in the comments.
First up, we have take a nap. This means to sleep for a short period during the day. For example, I think I'll take a nap after lunch.
Next is raining cats and dogs, which means to rain very heavily. On a rainy day, we can't go out because it's raining cats and dogs, right?
For sure. I definitely don't want to get wet. Now, let's look at keep someone guessing, which means to make something unclear or uncertain. For example, the mystery novel kept me guessing until the very end.
That's interesting. Next, we have throw in, which means to add something extra for fun or interest. It's like saying, we've thrown in some cool tips to help you learn English.
Then we have throw someone off, meaning to confuse someone. Some new rules may throw us off at first.
Yup. Now, practice with some questions below to see how well you understand the topic. I want to see your answers.
Just put your answers in the comments. Let's tackle the first question. How do you handle synonyms in English?
Can I answer this?
Why not?
I use context and examples to understand when to use synonyms.
Excellent. Now we have the second question. How do accents change how words sound?
Let me think. Accents like American versus British cause differences in pronunciation, such as schedule.
Good job, Leo. Listeners, I really want to see your answers in the comments.
Okay, let's get back to the topic. The next thing we want to share today is why it's worth learning English. Mia, what are your thoughts?
For starters, it's the language of the internet. Over 60% of the world's websites are in English, according to a study by W3 Techs. Knowing English gives you access to an incredible amount of information and entertainment.
Absolutely. Another reason is job opportunities. Research from EF Education first shows that employees with strong English skills earn, on average, 34% more than their peers who don't. It's not just about finding a job, it's about creating options for yourself.
And let's not forget about working with international teams. Imagine a project with people from Brazil, Germany, and Japan. What's the common language?
English, right?
Exactly. That's why companies like Microsoft and Samsung require their employees to use English as the primary language for collaboration.
And what about travel?
English is spoken in over 100 countries, according to Ethnologue. And even in places where it's not the official language, it's often the second language people learn. It's like carrying a universal passport.
Oh yeah. Plus, knowing English helps you connect with people on a deeper level. Instead of pointing at a menu or using hand signals, you can have real conversations and build meaningful connections.
I agree. That's a perfect example. Only when we're in that situation do we realize the importance of learning English.
All right, I think listeners want to learn some tips to master English now.
Okay, let's share some pro tips to make learning English easier. Tip 1. Immerse yourself. Watch shows, listen to music, or even set your phone to English. Make it a part of your daily life.
I couldn't agree more. Don't fall into the imaginary trap you've created. Don't just watch a few episodes and think you're done. Only when you make it a habit will you truly improve.
Yes. And don't be afraid to mimic. Copy how native speakers talk. It's a great way to learn pronunciation and rhythm.
Also, focus on phrases, not just words. Learn things like, how's it going? Instead of just how and go.
What a practical tip. Try practicing every day, even if it's just 5 minutes. And don't fear mistakes, they're part of the process.
Absolutely. Every mistake means you're learning. When I started learning English, I once said, I am onion, instead of, I am on it. Everyone laughed, but I never forgot the right phrase after that.
Yup. You should celebrate your progress. Even understanding this podcast means you're improving. So keep going. Learning English might be a challenge, but it's one worth taking on.
Last but not least, Don't give up. Every small step brings you closer to your bigger goals.
Why not start right now? Pick one of the tips we shared today and give it a try.
Alright, Mia, let's go over some key vocabulary from today's discussion.
Sure. Leo. Let's make sure our listeners understand these phrases clearly. The first phrase is on a deeper level. Like we shared before, talking in someone's native language lets you connect with them on a deeper level.
I agree. Next, we have immerse oneself, which means to fully surround yourself in an activity. You can immerse yourself in English by watching English shows daily.
Yup. That's a great way to learn. Now, let's move on to make something a habit, which means to do something regularly until it becomes natural. Our listeners will improve faster if they make speaking English a habit.
That's right. Can you guess the meaning of fall into? Listeners? It means to get caught in a mistake or problem without realizing it.
And the last phrase to learn is worth taking on, which means valuable or rewarding to try. Learning English is challenging but worth taking on.
You're right. Now, let's ask our listeners a few questions. Mia.
Sure, your turn.
Alright, how do you celebrate your learning progress?
I celebrate by treating myself to something I enjoy and noting small achievements. Like learning a new phrase or having a good conversation.
Wow, for me, I would just go to bed immediately to celebrate.
You're always like this. Leo.
Okay, second question. Can you think of a mistake you made while learning?
Yes. I once said, "Can you advise me?" instead of, "Can you give me advice?" It was a bit embarrassing. But it helped me remember the difference between advice, which is a noun, and advise, which is a verb.
Such a practical case. Listeners, don't forget to share your answers.
So, is English hard to learn?
Sure, it's a bit of a puzzle. But with the right tools, it's a puzzle you can solve. Nothing is easy, but by trying, we can achieve what we want.
Yeah, Leo. I think we've had a fantastic discussion today.
Yes, Mia, we've covered so much about learning English. I hope our beloved listeners find this episode useful.
Me too. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Listeners, stay curious, stay confident, and keep learning.
We'll see you next time. And remember, keep practicing. English has nothing